we're going to be talking to Will Young in just a moment. I met him about 17 years ago. It was actually just after Pop Idol, which he won, if you may remember, those of you of a certain age. Although I'm astonished at how many of my colleagues who are in their 20s actually remember that he won Pop Idol. It was really the predecessor of the X Factor, I suppose, against Gareth Gates. I think it was, 2002, something like that. And I was invited to a charity event at Highgrove, Prince Charles's home, name drop. And Will Young was there. And so we had a little chat to him about what Pop Idol was like and all the rest of it. And I thought, what a nice guy. And I followed his career ever since. And I've got, I looked on my phone the other day. I've got 96 of his songs on my phone, which has caused my producer to roar with laughter. But he's now written a book, and I spent most of Monday reading the book. And it's called To Be a Gay Man. Now, in this book, he speaks out about gay shame, and he reveals the impact that it's had on his life and how he learnt to deal with it, and how he can now truthfully say that he's gay and happy. He has lived his life very much in the public eye over the last few years, and it's going to be fascinating to hear what he's got to say about the book, because I remember when he first came to public prominence, I said to somebody, and I really mean this and meant this as an absolute compliment to him, that he could be sort of the next Cliff Richard. And with that, he walks into the studio. And his taxi on the way here had a little crash.
Well, one taxi, and then
have a seat.
My phone died. Hello.
So you're feeling very relaxed for this interview, basically.
Well, my dad's got, and I have to say thank you to Emery, my last taxi driver who got me here very quickly. My dad has a saying, it's not open heart surgery. And it's not, is it?
No, it isn't. Well, hopefully not over the next hour. Otherwise you're going to go away thinking, why did I bother?
It's nice to meet you.
Well, and you. And as I said, I read the book on Monday. I'll say it's an easy read, and I mean that as a compliment, because
thank
you kind of write as you talk. You can hear your voice through it, which is actually quite important in a book like this, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. Yeah, and to find... People talk about finding your voice as a writer. I mean, finding your voice as a person, it can be a quest, a lifelong quest. And I very much wrote it almost in a stream of consciousness on purpose. Mm. So I would forensically go back to times in my life where I felt that shame might have been foisted onto me. And it was a little bit like time travelling. And then I would just write. And it's a weird thing because I have written before, but, I'd then come back to, I might have written 5,000 words in a day, come back to it the next day and think, oh, Christ, how did I write that? And other times I come back and go, God, that's a load of a word I won't use. So it's quite a wonderful thing being a writer, actually. It's a really special thing. And I've written things, dramas, comedies that no one's ever wanted, and it really doesn't matter. I always say to people, it doesn't matter. You're putting something of yourself into something.
Do you enjoy the process of it?
Yeah, I love it. I really love it. I like the creativity of it. For this book, I felt that it had a wider purpose. I think if I hadn't worked... It's interesting, actually, sort of doing this book as a famous person, because I think if I was, let's say, a psychotherapist or an intellectual, there wouldn't be a focus on Will works through, felt ashamed for years. And all that sensational nonsense isn't the importance of the book. The book for me is about me when I was 32, coming across the concept of gay shame, reading a book called The Velvet Rage, which is like a Bible to so many gay men, and thinking, yeah, this is good, it's interesting, it's written by a psychotherapist, so it's, I don't know how much I can relate to, and so I wrote it deliberately as a client rather than as the therapist. All the sensational stuff doesn't really matter either way. It's about the message, which is, this is how it happens to me, this is how it happened to me, this is how I got over it.
So how do you define gay shame? I mean, in a sense, it sounds an obvious thing to ask, but I'm not
No.
sure. I think I would struggle to actually define what it is in sort of 20 seconds.
Well, give it a go.
Well, we've got an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Gay shame is internalised shame foisted on the person by a heteronormative patriarchal society, and it becomes internalised and the person feels that they're fundamentally wrong. Every message that they get from the day they're born is being gay is wrong. And it is soul destruction. You know, your very essence, your very being, you should not be on this earth. So, yeah, that's gay shame.
And
that was 30 seconds, I think.
And you genuinely felt that you should not be how you were.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was really interesting going back to it as a 41-year-old because I just couldn't feel the opposite now, you know.
So you've lost that sense of shame completely, or does it reappear from
I
time
think
to
it
time?
hangs around as a shadow. So a couple of years ago, I was homophobically abused by a bus driver, and I quite enjoyed the process of tracking him down, actually. That was quite fun. You know, and the police were...
Will Young becomes a stalker.
No, the police were amazing.
Well, that's good.
As was the mayor.
That wouldn't necessarily have happened before,
you didn't.
would
Yeah,
it?
you didn't have that, but you have recourse to the legal system now. And it was interesting because for about half a day, thoughts were going through my head like, oh gosh, do I look a bit gay? Oh gosh, do I look gay in this car? Maybe I shouldn't have been wearing those glasses. You know, visibility of myself. And I thought, oh God, that's interesting. This has really triggered, you know, a mountain of shame. So it can come up. And because I've worked on it, I mindfully watch it rather than dive into the cesspit of it.
And I mean, it's an impossible question in a way, but what percentage of gay men or women come to that, feel this sense of gay shame, do you think?
Yeah, it's difficult, that one,
guess?
because I'm not...
Because I've never felt it.
Well, I'm really pleased for you, genuinely. I really am. I think that can be a mixture of a strong constitution, a strong family upbringing, some strong...
Bear in mind, I didn't come out to my family until I was 40.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's...
Because as I was reading your book, I kept thinking, because there are obviously bits of it that I can relate to, sort of one or two similar experiences to you. But I did
tell me.
Well,
what,
I did think,
really interested.
I did think to myself, sort of, I've always known from a very early age that I was different. And you say when you were at primary school, you knew you were different. You didn't know you were gay, but you knew that you weren't quite like the other boys. And I felt exactly like that. But for me, I always felt it was perfectly normal the way I felt. I didn't feel that just because society felt it was different, that had no impact on me. And I didn't really, even though I didn't come out to a lot of people until comparatively late, it wasn't because of a sense of shame. It was because I didn't want to hurt my parents. Simple as that.
Do you think, did you worry about them, what they would, why would it have hurt them?
Because... I mean, everyone said to me, particularly in my 30s, well, I don't understand why you don't, because they must know. And you know your parents, I knew my parents, I knew that they wouldn't know. Even though I would visit them with my partner, they just didn't, because they were from a very conservative background. These sort of things, it just wouldn't have occurred to them. And so I just didn't want to ruin their nice life, and because I thought it probably would. And when it happened, you're interviewing me now, it's supposed to be the other way around.
Well, no, but it's really, I'm really interested.
I know that it hurt my mother. She said to my sister the following day that she wished she'd never woken up, which is something that I will carry with me till my dying day. My father was always good in a family crisis. He dealt with it much better. But I didn't, I never felt that sense of shame that you clearly did.
Yeah. So more of a sense of sadness, I guess, for someone else's feelings.
Yeah. And why would you deliberately go out and hurt somebody, particularly someone that is closest to you?
Well, it's that interesting question, isn't it? Because it's about, and I'm broadening it out now, so I'm not talking about, and I really appreciate you sharing that, because I am aware that I'm not the interviewer. But you can probably tell I've done a podcast for a few years.
And I've listened to many episodes.
Oh, have you?
I kept thinking, when's he going to invite me on?
Oh, sorry. Well, I don't do it anymore, so I can blame Chris and Alan. It's an interesting thing to broaden out and think. I had it with my grandmother actually, because I relate to what you were saying. When I won Pop Idol, it became more public knowledge, and that was a choice of mine. And I knew my grandmother would find out. And she is of a generation, she died a couple of years ago, I think, where it would have been tricky for her. We don't talk about those things. Even though she had loads of gay friends, by the way, loads. We don't talk about those things, darling. And so that was tricky. What I didn't like is the fact that I couldn't talk about those things. And that hurt me because I couldn't be my full, authentic self around her. And for me, being gay isn't... The thing is that I think people get fixated with willies and bums. From an early age, it's like the sexual act of being gay. It's not about that. It's about a sensibility. It's about an appreciation. It's about the love of a partner who is of the same sex, but it's also so many things which I didn't realise until I wrote the book. I didn't realise how sensitive I was, how creative I was, and I enjoyed exploring that. But I do feel sad that I couldn't have that fully open. It must be acceptance, because if a member of the family is not fully accepting me, there's a sadness in that, and there's a shunning of it, because they are shunning part of me,
What was part of the coming out process? And it's interesting you talk about that and sort of say you don't actually like the phrase because straight people don't come out, so why should gay people? But what was part of that process filled by the thought that you just didn't want to be rejected, and you feared that friends from school, you talk about a lot of school friends in the book, that friends and family would reject you, because I think that was certainly what I felt. And as it turned out, not a single family member has gone down that road, not a single friend. I mean, I can think of one where my relationship kind of changed a bit, but generally, I mean, a lot of them said they did know anyway, and they were just sort of waiting. But that feeling of rejection by people that you love or are great friends, that is a legitimate fear to have, isn't it?
Oh, God, yeah. And that sets in, I talk about what it was like, I think to a point it probably still is like at school, being branded gay. I mean, you are shoved to the, complete perimeter of any social inclusion. Do you
think that's still the case?
I really hope not. I don't feel that... A friend of mine
works in a secondary school in Sussex, and she says that girls and boys walk around hand in hand. I mean, people are in a relationship, which would never have happened in our day.
What type of school is it?
17 years older.
Is it private? Or?
No, not private school. State school. She says it's just... They don't even think twice.
I think, to me, it seems like it can be so varied, dependent on the school, and I have a slight problem with that, because I don't think the government take a strong enough lead. If we look at what happened in Birmingham a couple of years ago, was it? I mean, gosh, this lockdown has completely screwed any of my sense of time.
Anderton School, wasn't it?
It was Andrew Moffat.
Andrew Moffat. That's the one.
No outsiders. Yeah. And I went up to interview him, actually. And I thought the concept and the programme, which I think at that stage had been rolled out to 120 to 150 schools, was accepting that we accept difference in others even if we don't agree with it. And I thought that was such an amazing initiative, because we are all different. I mean, we are, aren't we? I don't like liver. You might like liver.
Hate it.
Oh, well, there we go. Oh, well, thank you.
Why would anyone want to
we have a connection? But God,
after 18 minutes, it's about time.
But do you know what I mean? It's like bring in the liver. If the more we're taught about difference at school, the more we see how unique we are. And I don't mean that in a sort of flowery way. It's almost science. In fact, it is science. It's just true. And it was really sad how I think the approach to the Birmingham school and the way that some of those MPs spoke about it, terrified for their position in their constituency, probably not even agreeing with.
Well, I remember interviewing Roger Godsiff, the local MP, who he'd voted for the Equalities Act.
Yes.
He's 72 years old,
Yes.
and he came on, and I'm afraid I was quite unprofessional with him, and I really laid into him. And I said, all you want, you're just appealing for Muslim voters because you think that all Muslim voters will be against this. Well, let me tell you, not all of them are. And I mean, he got quite. I mean, he
great point.
Almost sort of put the phone down on me, which I'd have been quite proud if he had.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And also, we could go on about that whole thing, but But
that in a sense gets to the essence of gay shame, doesn't it? Because what the thing that those parents were saying, and these activists that essentially took over the demonstrations, the thing that they were effectively saying was that our kids could be persuaded to be gay. And that is such a common thing in society. And I get it when I do phone-ins on this. We might get it after 1:30 when we take some calls.
I hope so.
Because, and I mean, I don't know about you, but could you be persuaded to be straight?
No, and I think that's the thing. And I actually have a belief. Listen, on the surface, yes, things are so much better. And even below the surface, there are legal parameters in place that make things a lot easier for LGBTQ plus people. Transgender people, I think it's a conversation we can have in a bit. But below that, I still think that there's and we're really going into the psyche of people, I really think that people would much prefer that their children weren't gay. And if they're saying they don't, then a lot of them are lying to themselves. And what I say in the book is a lot of it comes down to parents not dealing with their stuff. Because kids aren't born bigoted, just kids just something right. The parents can't deal with at sports day, it starts then. If the girl is a little bit butch, aged 5, she likes to play conkers, she doesn't like to be a ballerina. Oh, he's a bit effeminate, he didn't do very well at the running. Suddenly there's actually a shame that becomes foisted on the parents because the overall fear is, we know what this means, don't we?
Yeah.
Do you see my point?
I do see your point, but I mean, if you put yourself in the position of a parent who wants the best for their child, any parent might well come to the conclusion that my child's life will be much easier if they're not gay.
Well,
and they'd be right.
No, they wouldn't.
No, they wouldn't.
I'm spinning in my chair, listeners. I'm spinning in my chair. They wouldn't. That's the point. You see, I fundamentally disagree with you.
That's really interesting.
Oh my gosh, I could tell you so many.
Okay, go on.
No, because that was 20 years ago. And also more. And also, there's so many. If you're heterosexual, it does not mean that you're going to be happy. In fact, the argument could be that you are actually more unhappy because you have to stick to very stringent goals in your life. Get the job, get the wife or get the husband, get the 4x4, get the 2.2 kids or whatever it is, do the side return on your house. I don't have to do that as a gay man. I'm 41. I am aware also that I'm white, middle class, I'm a man. We will put that aside for now. I'm 41. I don't have to worry about if I have kids, when I have kids. I don't have to worry about having a partner. I don't have to, or if I do have a partner, I don't have to follow what the this journey that is set out for straight people. I don't. It's absolutely liberating.
Okay, well...
Do you see my point?
Time has run away with us, which means I've forgotten to go to a break.
Oh,
so I'm going to rectify that now. It's 23 minutes past 8.
LBC.
Your van on site. It's your business card. Your advertisement. If it looks good, you look professional. If your van or pickup has seen better days, now's the time to see to it. The Ford Backbone of Business event. Save £1,000 off the recommended retail price. Get 0% APR representative finance on Ford Acquire. And get out there and get the business in. The Ford Backbone of Business event runs from the 12th to the 20th of September. We're with you on this journey. Ford Commercial Vehicles. Search Backbone of Britain.
Model exclusions and deposit restrictions may apply. Free post for credit.
Hi, I'm Andy Byford, the new Commissioner of Transport for London. We're getting London moving again, with good service levels on tubes, buses and trains. But we do ask that you please still travel at the quiet times, if you can, to help with social distancing. We're doing all we can to keep things safe, clean and organised. After all, we're here for all Londoners. To find out more, search TfL Restart Plan. To the Mayor of London and TfL, every journey matters.
Checker Trade is the UK's #1 website for finding tradespeople. Let us help you get your home and garden in shape and maybe sort out that DIY you got a little bit carried away with. Find your local tradesperson for free today at checkertrade.com. The UK's #1. UK's #1 according to survey conducted by Deep Blue Thinking.
Iain Dale on LBC.
It's 24 minutes past 8 on LBC. Will Young is here talking about his book, To Be a Gay Man, which is all about the concept of gay shame. I suppose a lot of this does depend on your background. And you said you had a very middle-class background.
Yeah.
You went to nice schools and all the rest of it. But you instinctively felt that sense of gay shame. If you'd been a working-class lad in Blackburn going to a local state school, I mean, that would be a completely different experience, but similar in many ways, I guess.
Well, yes, I think so, because a lot of the stuff that I'm looking at is how does it filter down, and it filters down from socio norms. So then there was nothing on TV. In fact, there's a bit I talk about. One of the chapters is about HIV and AIDS, and I was around 7 or 8 when, and I'm sure a lot of your listeners will remember the adverts that were on television for AIDS.
Don't die of ignorance.
Yeah, they were terrifying. Tombstones. It was called the Gay Plague. The government didn't start putting money towards HIV and AIDS until the first straight couple died. And this is not a sort of crusade by me, and it's not done with any sense of bitterness. It's done with a lot of curiosity and interest. I think it's important to look back to see how we can go forward, and also note how we never go back to those kind of times. But in answer to how it could be different dependent on where you were, in some sense there can be a lot of formats that are different. In another sense, I think on a wider scale it was just there everywhere. You were just surrounded by it. What did you see? You might see, I don't know, the only gay people that I might see on TV were sort of desexualised in a way and made to wear sparkly suits and be funny.
John Inman, Larry Grayson, wasn't it?
Exactly.
That was about it. Even at the end of the 1980s, there wasn't much else.
Yeah, apart from then, the most wonderful man that I think gets looked over a lot is Julian Clary. Julian Clary, in his own way, was a bit of a crusader. And it gets overlooked by a certain moment when he was then banned from TV. I don't know if I can say that.
Let's not go into that too much.
But he was...
thank you.
Thank you. But he was really important, I think. People overlook that.
When you think back to when you won Pop Idol, you were completely aware of the pressures on you then, and the fact that people would want to know everything about you. And you were, I think, as open as you could be, and you were effectively then outed by the Daily Star.
No, it was the Sunday Mail.
Oh, was it?
Why
did I think the Daily Star? No, you're
not
absolutely
sure,
right.
but that would have been brilliant.
But that
the
was
Sunday Mail were going to, yeah. I mean, I was already openly gay. I mean, I can't have such a problem with that saying now. It feels so archaic in a good way, But I was at university, and so it was going to come out, and then we worked out a way. I was going to do an interview with a broadsheet, and I suppose then, looking back, it was a big deal.
It was. Because
no pop star that I knew, I think there are a couple, but I can't remember them, had been open about their sexuality from the beginning of their career. And coming off the back of that show, it was quite a big deal. So I think in the end we went with The Sun. And I just remember thinking, God, this is boring. I mean, it was so boring. Do you know what I mean? there's so many more important things in the world, and maybe I was lucky that I'd already gone to university. I'd lived some life. I'd had a depressive period. I'd lost friends of the family, you know. So I experienced quite a lot, and I just remember thinking, oh, come on, really? You know, is this really that important? But it was.
But you were, I mean, anyone in your position at that time who was male was expected to have a string of female conquests. You were, you would have had a lot of young female fans, and of course, a lot of the people in the industry would say, well, you can't possibly say that you're gay.
Well, no, but it used to be admit, though. Yeah, but it used to be admit.
You can't possibly say you're gay because you'll just lose all your popularity. And that didn't happen with you, did it?
It didn't, and I think the reason it didn't is because of the programme Pop Idol. I think it allowed a cushion for me and a mirror, which the cushion was that people that had voted for me, I think 14 million people viewed. I don't know how many people voted. They would have lied anyway about the numbers and made them bigger. But
allegedly.
Allegedly. And they would have had to really look in the mirror, because they had 10 weeks to like me, enjoy me, not like me, not enjoy me, and then go, right, am I really going to switch off because he's gay? And I think that was quite a unique moment. But I also think, again, someone else who's overlooked is Brian Dowling. Is it Dowling? Dowling, who was in Big Brother. And that was another example of someone that people were falling in love with. He was on television every day, people were voting, and they found themselves really liking and enjoying a gay man. And I think he did a lot, and he's actually overlooked. He actually did a lot just by being himself. You know, so I think those two things, you know, sometimes you get happy circumstances and it's just the right time. And
did you feel a sense of responsibility, though, when you were doing it? Were you aware of that? Because looking back, I mean, when you're the first to do anything, that is a burden, isn't it? Do you feel you carried that burden?
No, not at all. I mean, there are occasions where I thought, I don't even think like necessarily gay men like me that much, you know, and that's a sort of weird thing amongst.
Why?
Because there is a thing amongst the gay community where we don't always come together. And in my opinion, that can be because of gay shame. And, you know, I used to come across gay people through work, and they'd either go one way or the other. They'd either be really, really cold to me, and I think, oh God, I haven't done anything. Or they'd be absolutely lovely. You know, so I had people like Elton John who sent me flowers the next day, David and Nelson. I mean, I was a politics student, and suddenly these flowers arrived. I was thinking, first thing I thought was, how the hell do you know where I lived?
They have people.
I didn't feel a burden. I just felt stubborn, actually. I felt really stubborn. And I just was damned if people were going to tell me what to do, you know, and how to do it. I'd spent quite a few years being tortured by being gay, not to then pretend that I was. So that's, I was quite stroppy and stubborn, I guess.
We can be stroppy and stubborn with our callers in a moment.
Oh, lovely.
Like.
I love an
because
argument.
Because we've got lots of calls coming in. If you'd like to talk to Will, 0345 6060 973. But first, let's get the latest news headlines at 8:32 with Lucinda Horsley.
Even tighter lockdown restrictions are being enforced in Bolton, where the infection rate's now the highest in England. People can no longer have sit-down meals at restaurants. They can only offer takeaways and have to close by 10 p.m. Meanwhile, a local lockdown has come into effect in Caerphilly in South Wales this evening, meaning restrictions on travel and meeting other households. Wales's health minister says it should serve as a wake-up call. EasyJet has announced it's cutting flights after the government announced quarantine restrictions for 7 Greek islands. People arriving back from destinations like Mykonos, Santorini or Crete will now have to self-isolate for 14 days from 4 a.m. tomorrow morning. LBC weather, rain moving southeastwards across Scotland and Northern Ireland tonight, reaching northern England later. Mild and cloudy in the south, a low of 9 degrees.
This is LBC.
Come to Galliard for brand new London apartments from £195,000. Paper Mill House is located just a 13-minute walk to Romford Station, where from next year, Crossrail will have you in the city in just 27 minutes. Apartments come fully furnished free of charge, are stamp duty exempt, and qualify for a Help to Buy mortgage with just a 5% deposit. Book to view virtually or by appointment at our COVID prepared event at Paper Mill House, South Street, Romford, RM1 2AR from 5 p.m. on Thursday the 10th of September till 5 p.m. Sunday the 13th of September. Call 0203 770 6300 or visit galliardhomes.com. That's galliardhomes.com. Terms and conditions apply.
We all cough and sneeze occasionally. We can't change that. But you can help protect your staff and get your business going again with acrylic cough and sneeze screens from WorkShield. Designed to click together in seconds, there's a WorkShield for every use in every business. From just £73 delivered. Order now and save an extra 10% on all products with code RADIO. WorkShield. Get your business going. Price excludes 20% VAT.
Did you know that Co-op now deliver repeat prescriptions to your home for free? If you're registered with a GP in England, you can securely view and order your repeat prescription online. Your medication is delivered to you free of charge and at no extra cost to the NHS. There's no need to visit a pharmacy unless you want to. Search Co-op Health to download the app or register online. Co-op, it's what we do. Co-op Health is a provider of NHS services. Full terms and conditions available at coop.co.uk/health.
You're listening to a revolution that's happening in Sandra's kitchen. Tucked away in a cupboard behind a bag of spuds well past the best, her smart meter is doing something extraordinary and helping to upgrade Britain's energy system. So even if Sandra's bacon butty is average, her contribution to a modern Britain will be anything but. Join the quiet revolution. Ask your energy supplier for a smart meter. Eligibility may vary.
Why buy an apartment now? Fully furnished, stamp duty exempt, Help to Buy available from £195,000. Visit galliardhomes.com. Terms and conditions apply.
This is LBC with Iain Dale. Call 0345 6060 973.
It's 8:35 on LBC. Will Young has a new book out. It's called To Be a Gay Man. Have you ever done a phone-in before, Will?
Yes.
Oh, that was the wrong answer.
Oh, sorry. Yes, no, I have.
Well,
yeah, they're fun.
Well, let's see how fun it's going to be.
I like having discussions with people.
Well, 0345 6060 973 is the number to call if you'd like to have a word with Will. Vanessa is a first-time caller in Camberley. Vanessa, hi. What would you like to say?
Oh, hi, both of you. Big Will Young fan, and you, of course, Ian.
Of course.
Bigger fan of Will, to be honest.
Hi, Vanessa.
Okay, I know my place.
I just want to put a positive spin on this. I've got two sons, one straight, the younger one is gay. I absolutely love having a gay son. Absolutely embrace every part of it. Simply because, with my elder one, I've kind of lost part of him to another woman, to his partner. Oh. My younger son, I'm still the main woman in his life.
Oh, blimey.
And
there's a lot going on there.
Oh, not in any kind of weird way.
Oh, no.
No.
Perish the thought.
No, but I just love that. And I was saying to your researcher, the way that he came out, in effect, to me was he was away on holiday with friends, and he just sent me a WhatsApp picture of him and his now boyfriend, partner, and said, "Oh, by the way, man, this is my boyfriend," and that was the coming out.
See, that could have been quite a shock. Did you know before, or was
no idea, none
really?
Whatsoever.
How old was he at the time?
Sorry?
How old was he at the time?
I'd about 23, right. Something like that. And looking back, he never brought a girlfriend home, but I would never, ever have thought that he was gay. Loving it, embracing every second of it.
I mean, that's so lovely to hear, Vanessa. I do worry. What's your youngest son's name?
What's his name?
Yeah. Oh, you don't have to say.
Remy.
I worry about the fact you being the only woman in his life. I'm worried about codependence, Vanessa. I really appreciate you phoning in because it's so nice to hear from a parent and things have changed so much, by the way, since I was young. It's so nice to hear from a parent who accepts their child for who they are, and it's a great example. The WhatsApp message. This is my boyfriend. It's just a great example of just how simple and normal it really can and should be now. Yeah, so it's really nice.
I've spoken with one of my colleagues at work. He's around about the same age, and I was telling him, and he's gay, and he was saying to me that he had to plan it for months ahead. He had to sit his mum and dad down. He had to do the old, I've got something to tell you.
So that's very different. Yeah. Well, no, it's just a lovely modern way, isn't it, of sharing information.
Okay, Vanessa, thank you very much indeed. David says, thank you for having Will on. This book sounds amazing, and I'm happy that he's bringing this sort of stuff into the mainstream conversation. We've all been targeted before, and sharing experiences helps us all. P.S. I'm no lip reader, but I'm pretty sure Will asked me to marry him from the Kew Garden stage. Would you tell him I said yes?
Oh.
Don't know what you missed out on there.
Are you rich?
No, but you are.
Well,
Barry is in Southampton. Hello, Barry.
Good evening.
Hi.
I was listening to the interview while I was driving back, and I really relate to a lot of what Will talked about with his feelings from school right through, and this kind of sense that there's always something that is almost wrong in a way. And I've spent a lot of time kind of getting over that and coming to terms with it and that kind of thing. And I'm in a really good place now. I'm in a really happy civil partnership. My parents and my family are really supportive. And I no longer think of gay as being the defining factor about me. It never really was. There are other more defining factors. It's just a part of who I am. One of the things that does kind of trigger those kinds of feelings in a way for me, though, is use of certain language, even when it's not meant in a derogatory way or things like that. And I really have an issue, and I'd kind of like to understand both of your views on it, on the use of the word queer to describe gay people, particularly by other gay people. And for me, my personal view is I find it quite negative and derogatory. And I don't like it, and I don't use it, but I wondered about your views.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, thank you so much for phoning in, Barry. How old are you?
38.
Yeah, so I'm 41, and queer was an insult, for me when I was younger. It was along the same lines as other words, which I don't even know if I'm allowed to use.
No,
now.
You're not.
No, I know, and
please,
I said it.
Please don't get me into any trouble.
No, but isn't that interesting? Because I said a word beginning with F the other day, and then I could tell there was a reaction. But so I can relate to why you might find it or do find it triggering when you hear the word queer, because for me it was an insult. I think what's so interesting is when you look at the movement of human rights, civil rights amongst people, that there's a reclaiming of language, and it happened in the Black movement, and it has happened very much in the LGBTQ plus movement on many levels. So I can understand why you would find it triggering. I now can understand that kind of reclaiming of that language and celebration, and the queer movement has been around since the 70s at least.
Barry, thank you very much indeed. Ryan says, 4 gay men killed in knife hate attacks in the last month, gentlemen. No media attention on these killings, just saying. I have to say, that's passed me by.
Yeah, it passed me by as well.
What does that say, though? If we don't know about these things, then probably other people will never know about them.
It's a difficult thing, and we'll take callers first. Sorry, I was just going to ask you. It's funny. I was just thinking as I was listening to Barry that as a gay man, I can feel conscious when I'm talking about specific issues related to LGBTQ plus things, because there's a sense that, they're always going to go on about it. Any minority, Black Lives Matter, well, of course you're going to go on about it. And it's not, it's a wider thing than that. It's not about moaning. It's about people claiming, people declaring and sharing what things are like for them. And I don't know what it's like to be a black person. I really want to educate myself. I need to do more of it. I don't think people are moaning when they're talking about things. I think people, if it's done in the right way, it's about sharing. And I think that's really important. Did that make sense?
It does make sense. But do you feel that your sexuality defines you in a way that it wouldn't do if you had a different sexuality? By which I mean, do you get annoyed if somebody writes about the gay singer Will Young?
Oh yeah, that's always quite funny.
Because that really annoyed. I mean, when I was in politics, the Observer of all papers described me as the openly gay Conservative candidate. I think if the Observer are writing stuff like that, there really isn't much hope.
Well, there's an example. I don't feel like my sexuality defines me. However, I do think there is a lot in being a gay man, and a lot of my interests and the way I am can relate to that. I actually kind of forget that I'm gay now. That's not just a sign of my sex life, but it's it's a sign.
We haven't quite got to 9 o'clock.
No, it's almost there. You can say sex. I forget because I just sort of potter along now. And I think that's a nice place.
Sign of impending middle age.
Is it? Oh, I love middle age.
Well, you don't know, you haven't got there yet.
I'm not sure about middle age spread. I think I'm moving into that. But
right, well, we might come on to... Well, no, we won't come on to that. We'll come to more of your calls in just a second. It's 8:45.
This is LBC.
This isn't just music, it's a feeling. The feeling of being out on the road with the sun on your face and the wind in your hair. Get that feeling. Switch to AA Breakdown Cover. Now with up to a third off until the 9th of September. Visit theaa.com. New customers only. Excludes roadside only. T's and C's apply.
Many lenders use Experian's credit data to look at potential borrowers. But what exactly are they looking for? Thankfully, you can log on and look at you too. The lookie becomes the looker. You looking at them, looking at you. Look at that. And if you don't like the look of your credit score, look at ways to improve it. To look at your free credit score, look up experian.co.uk. T's and C's apply.
Here's the thing about block management. If you do it yourself, you're over here sorting out the insurance, and here keeping everything compliant.
Don't forget the grounds maintenance and the service charges.
And that's just what you need to do today. But because the ABC Estates block management team can look after every aspect of your property portfolio, from repairs to service charge collections, your time can, at last, be better spent elsewhere. Be as happy as Larry with block management from Aldermartin, Baines and Cuthbert. Talk to us today. Call 0800 888 6688 or visit abcestates.co.uk.
At Vodafone, we're giving families an Apple TV 4K completely on us with Vodafone Superfast One Extra broadband. Enjoy original shows and movies with a 12-month free Apple TV Plus subscription, with anytime minutes and no in-contract price rises all included, all for only £31 a month for 24 months. It's a great time to switch to Vodafone.
24-month contract, credit check and acceptance apply. Requires 4K capable TV. £4.99 per month after 1 year unless cancelled. See apple.com terms apply. Vodafone.co.uk/broadband.
Iain Dale on LBC.
8:47. Let's take more of your calls to Will Young. James is in Worksop. Hello, James.
Hiya, how are you?
Hi, very well, thank you. What would you like to say?
Good,
Hi,
good.
James.
Hi, Will. I just wanted to call in because I can just relate so much to what you were saying. I'm a similar age to you, Will, and I can remember back when I was a kid, it was really not okay to be gay, and for me, my life took a turn, whereas I felt the need to be the person that people expected me to be. So I had a straight relationship. I got married. I had a child, and it took me until my mid-30s to realise that it's okay to be who you are, and it took a lot to. But I think a lot of the changes in LGBT support has helped me, and obviously you can see that as well. And it's just so common. I've got two close friends now. Both of these close friends were the same, similar age. Both of them have got children. Both of them were married, because when we talk about it, and we always say, you know, back in the day, back in when we were kids, you know, it wasn't okay. And it wasn't just from my parents. It was the general consensus that, you know, it wasn't okay. Does that make sense?
Yes, no, it does completely. And I can understand why you took and have taken the path that you've taken. And do you think it would have been different if you were living as a young person in today's society?
Absolutely. Absolutely be completely different. And it's quite sad to think about that now, because, you know, when I was young, and even up to being a teenager, it was, you know, homophobia was rife in everyday life, and it was something that was just accepted. It was, you know, nobody fought against it until in more recent years. So it was, and I think that's one of the factors that compelled a lot of people to try and lead lives that they inevitably shouldn't really be leading.
Yeah, no.
See, I reckon if I'd been born 10 years before I was, say 1952, as opposed to 1962, I would now be married with children.
Do you think so?
I absolutely do. And I think that it's very easy, I think, for people nowadays to take for granted all of the changes, not just in the law that have been made over the last 20 years, but the changes in attitudes. And
I agree.
I think there's a lot of people, I mean, depending on what your age is. I mean, imagine if you'd been born in 1932 as opposed to 1962, and then even the difference in age between us. I mean, you I think, even though, I mean, you've talked very openly in the book about sort of the difficulties that you've encountered. If you'd been born 10 or 20 years earlier, I think it would have been exponentially worse.
Yes, I agree. And I write about a moment in the book when, I mean, I went through a weird process because I'd been rebirthed, but I thought I was just having a meditation, having a massage. So that was odd. And then I ran into Tom York in Oxford High Street.
As you do.
Didn't know him, but, you know, practically praised him as the Lord. And then got homophobically abused, and I did a tactic of shouting at the top of my voice everything that they were saying to me, and saying I'm being homophobically abused. And what was so fascinating is it was like a litmus test, because the whole street turned on these three guys, and that wouldn't have happened even a year previously.
But if you hadn't been Will Young and you were John Smith,
no,
do you think that would have made any difference?
No, I don't. I can get a really good notion if people recognise me or not, and it wasn't about that. It was about someone stating something that, because of things like civil partnerships and then gay marriage, someone stating something, and suddenly people were like, you know what, I actually do think this is wrong. And the thing is, it is always important to look at things that have happened, but we are in a much better place. And this book is about showing people how you can work something, how you can work through something. How it's like with any therapy, you got to go back, you got to look at how something happened, you got to unpack it, and then work out where it's meant to go in your life. You know, like anything, a bad work experience, a bad relationship, a bad house move. I mean, it could be anything. And that's what this book is. It's not a book that's saying life is so awful for gay people, LGBT, Q+ people now. It is for transgender, by the way.
Let's go to Helen in Newmarket. Helen, hi, what would you like to say?
Hi, hello to you, Ian and Will.
Hi, Helen.
I'm just saying that sometimes I think this is a worry for people, but sometimes myself as a parent, I knew that my daughter was going to be a lesbian, and when she was in her teen years, unfortunately, it took her about another 8 years to tell me. I was just so relieved when she actually came out with it, because I didn't want to. I suppose I should have talked to her about it before, but it's difficult. But I'm so proud of her. And I think sometimes people don't understand that parents actually do know, or...
or have an idea, like yourself, that you had an idea, and then it took 8 years for your daughter to then talk about it. And
I wish it'd come out a lot sooner, because it would have been so much easier for her.
Did you ever think about approaching it with her yourself?
I did, but I think I was a bit scared of doing it. I think if she'd have even mentioned the subject, then I would have come out with it straight away. And I think I did kind of say little things along the way, because, that we were always very open about relationships and stuff like that. And I kind of encouraged the fact, I had very good friends that were single-sex partnerships and everything else. So it's not like she knew that I was okay. But sometimes I think it's an additional worry that kids put on themselves.
Well,
they
yes,
don't come and tell their parents.
Yes, and people need to work things out in their own time sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. I was so happy for her.
Well,
so happy.
I'm really pleased you're at a good place now.
And she's getting married next year.
Oh, it's even better.
Helen, thank you so much. I was just thinking that if someone's listening who's a parent and they think that their son or daughter is gay, I wonder whether they should give them your book.
I think it depends on the age.
I guess so.
Yeah, I would say, 16
because
upwards.
it's not a sort of self-help book, is it? It's not a sort of how. You call it To Be a Gay Man. It's not how to be a gay man.
No.
But on the other hand, that there are so many experiences in it that you've gone through that I think a lot of people will relate to, particularly in their early years.
I hope that I'd say 16 upwards, that it would be available. My dream for the book, I said it, but I could hear my publishers screaming. If someone just bought one book, but then it was shared a million times.
Yeah, no publisher wants to hear that.
Of course. But I just think that would be amazing, because I want it to be like a text that is there for people. And it's not always about blaming and observing and saying this happens because of this happened because of that. People develop how they develop, and I don't think, I think this book would be important in 40 years' time, because there will always be, when you are in a minority, it will always be there to an extent, and I love the idea of it helping people.
Abiola sent in a text saying, what's Will's view on the lack of gay footballers and other sports people?
Well, there's an example. When people say it's all brilliant, I say, well, why are actors still encouraged to pretend to be straight by their agents, and why are there no footballers and hardly any sports people, really, if you think about it. So my view is it is a sign of the times. Still.
I wrote a sort of counterfactual about what would happen if a footballer came out as gay, a Premier League footballer, for Attitude magazine some years ago. And when I was writing it, I actually came to the conclusion that there'd be such a positive reaction. And I'm sure it's the agents that are preventing this.
I think you're right,
because
actually.
They would say, well, of course, all your sponsorship will go if you do this. And I absolutely don't think it would. I think for the first one, it wouldn't. I think they would be seen as sort of as groundbreaking. And there's a possibility, if they handled it right, it could be commercially a good thing.
Well, that's true. It could become sensationalised in almost the wrong way. I think you could be right. It's very tricky.
Jeff has got a good question in Woking. Hi, Jeff.
Hello, Ian. Hello, Will.
Hi, Jeff.
Yeah, it's a great interview, by the way. Up until fairly recently, if you were in the entertainment business industry and you were openly gay, it was almost a total destruction of your career. Thankfully, things have changed quite a bit today. But how do you think being openly gay has affected your career in terms of success? Do you think you are more successful having been openly gay or less?
Oh, that's such a good question, Jeff. I think it has. I think there are times that potentially, as I got more comfortable with my sexuality, that might have affected some of my success.
Yes.
And I think, I can think of moments, the record company saying, don't dance with a male mannequin in a video, various times.
What do you say when they say things like that?
Well, that's the point. You see, if I think of it now, I would call them out and write an article on it and ask for some money. But, then it was 2009, it was different. I think that there probably have been elements that possibly have affected my career because of still what was going on in those times. However, weighing up my happiness compared to earning a few more bucks, I would take my happiness every day of the week.
Where do you see your career heading now? Because, I mean, whenever you release a new album, it's incredible.
Panto?
It's incredibly No, that's me.
Do you do panto?
No.
Oh, I'd love to do panto.
I wouldn't mind doing it. If Anne Widdecombe can do it, I can do it.
Oh, my blimey. Yeah, gosh.
But, I mean, you still clearly get a kick out of the song, out of the singing.
No, I mean...
You have great hit records, but you're also doing a lot of acting now.
Yeah, and I want to do more. I've really got into it and did sort of quite a few auditions in Los Angeles at the beginning of... before lockdown happened. Weirdly, a lot of them playing a weasel, which I don't understand why. But I just think do as much. I don't know how long I'm going to be on this planet, so I just want to do as much as I can. And my sort of thing is, do it. Don't do it if you're not enjoying it. So the music's been brilliant, and I'm really fortunate with that. The acting jobs I've done have been honestly life-changing. And then the writing and the mental health stuff I love, but if I suddenly thought, right, now I want to become a professional compost maker, then if it makes me happy, I'll go and do it.
You heard it here first. Will, thank you so much.
It's been such a wonderful interview.
It's one of those hours where you think, well, an hour is a long
Where's
time,
it gone?
but it's gone very quickly, and I could happily do the next hour with you, but we do have to move on, unfortunately. Thank you so much. Will's book is called To Be a Gay Man. It's published by Bodley Head, $16.99 in hardback. Helen says, I've had your show tonight written in my diary since last night. I've been unable to tune in until just this second. Where else can I find it? This last 10 minutes has been wonderful. Thank you both. Well, it's very simple, Helen. You just subscribe to the Iain Dale Whole Show podcast. We'll also put it on my book club podcast at some point in the next couple of weeks as well. So it won't be going away, and I'm sure there'll be clips from it on the LBC website as well. So thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
In a moment, we're going to turn our attention to the latest developments in coronavirus and take your calls on that. You're listening to LBC. I'm Iain Dale. It's 9 o'clock.